Ira here is the vice president of our team this year. She's going to go ahead and introduce and get us kicked off.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome and thanks for joining our FTC Coding Camp today. We are a fourth-year FRC team, Team 9023 Future Martians, and we started in the 2022 to 2023 season. We have mentored 7 FTC teams in the past 3 years, and most of the students on our team have experience in FTC. So our members were on the FTC State Washington Championship, and we have won finalist alliances. And we have made it to the World Championships in Houston, Texas, twice in the 3 years of FRC.
So just a quick one. The hope is that you've all had some kind of exposure to FTC, but if there are any rookie FTC members, that's fine as long as you are comfortable with coding in Java. Do we have any rookie FTC members here who have not done FTC before? Okay, all right.
Yes,
As long as you are comfortable with Java, that should be fine. And yeah, I see we have members online who might be raising their hands. So request is for the members who are online, if you need to catch our attention or react to us, please do use the Zoom hand raise function. That way we'll know that you have either that you have a question or you're giving us a thumbs up for any questions. So anyone online who's a rookie member? Okay, I see a couple of hands. Okay, so that's good. So for rookie members, do not hesitate to ask us questions as we go through the different various slides and information. Okay, right.
So this is the FTC control hardware. So the first one is a quick overview of the control hub, which is the robot's brain and where all the processing of the robot controller code occurs. And it is also where power management and control of motors, servos, sensors, and cameras happen. It's also where all the communication with the remote driver hub is done via a peer-to-peer Wi-Fi connection. The control hub also runs the Android x86 operating system, a common OS used in many phones and other devices, and it has 4 DC motor ports, 6 servo ports, 8 digital I/O ports, and an internal IMU, and 4 analog ports.
Now, so quick question for anyone here who might have worked with previous hardware. So the control hub was introduced about, I would say, 5 or 6 years ago. And before that, you actually had to use an Android phone connected to an expansion hub. Now, is there anyone here who's used that setup before? You had an Android phone and an expansion hub? Okay, good. That was a hard setup, but with the control hub, things definitely got a lot easier. We will get into this a little after talking about the 3 hubs, but at the end of the day, the control hub is simply an Android device, very similar to your phone. The control hub does not have a screen. Your phones do. The driver hub is also an Android device, and it does have a screen. And the same functionality as the phone was being used to be able to interact between the 2 devices. Anyway, we'll get into that in a few minutes here.
And the expansion hub is a hardware control add-on to the control hub, and it contains the same ports as the control hub, allowing for more motors, servos, and other devices to be connected. Before the introduction of the control hub, 2 expansion hubs were used along with an Android OS-based cell phone, as he just said, which provided the wireless connectivity. And older expansion hubs used to include new, but the ones manufactured roughly in the past 3 years do not. And then the driver hub is an Android OS-based mobile device designed to interact wirelessly with the control hub. It runs a specialized app called the Driver Station for interfacing with and configuring the control hub. This app provides several functionalities, including initializing and starting the robot, changing configurations, and viewing a camera. if one is connected and viewing logs and errors. The driver hub contains 3 USB-A ports and up to 2 controllers that can be plugged in. And prior to the introduction of the driver hub, an Android OS-based cell phone was used to provide the wireless connectivity between the phone and the robot.
So it really helps to understand exactly how the whole control of your FTC robot is being achieved. So as you're all aware, your robot has the control hub, and optionally it could have the expansion hub. And then you use the driver hub, which is this device here. You use a driver hub to interact with the robot, and you have a controller connected to this driver hub. So the way this is working is the control hub, it has the Android operating system running on it. The driver hub also has the Android operating system running on it. So imagine that these two are really like your phones. Okay, there are two devices which are like your phones. And on the control hub, you will be running the robot controller app. It is simply a mobile app. If you've all gone to the App Store and downloaded something on your Android phones, very similar to that, it is an app. APK means Android package. So it's a .apk file that you are downloading onto your control hub, and that's your robot controller. And then the driver hub also has a different app. It's the driver station app. Okay, so each of them have their own specific application being installed on Android OS. Now, the one on the control hub is where your custom robot code goes in. So it already has an app with a whole bunch of functionality that FRC has provided you. So when you download the FTC SDK and you build an APK file, you're essentially building the base app that base app that FRC has provided for FTC. And then when you are adding your custom code, that custom code is added along with what FRC provided you, and it is being installed on the control hub. So it's only the control hub app, which is the robot controller. That's the one that you are going to be modifying by adding your own code. The one on the driver station, that's the driver station app, or the one on the driver hub, I mean. The driver station app, you never modify that. This one will always remain as is. You do add some configuration, and that configuration is so that you know how to interact with the robot controller. But other than that, you're not really modifying this app. So it's very important to understand, how this communication is happening. And there's a peer-to-peer Wi-Fi. I'll explain what that is in a moment. Now, when you all connect your laptops to the Wi-Fi connections that you usually use to get internet, you have a Wi-Fi router, and you're making a connection from your laptop to that to access the internet. Again, the purpose being to transfer data back and forth. Whereas here, you are creating a direct Wi-Fi connection between the control hub and your driver hub. It's not a connection to the internet. It's a connection to each other. And when your game controller is connected to your driver hub and you press a button, that information is being passed on wirelessly to your control hub. And then the control hub knows how to react to that input that you gave. So that is how you are achieving the remote control of the robot from your driver station. Any questions regarding this from anyone? Because it is, for those who have done FTC, you know that there's really no remote control because it's all autonomous. It's 2.5 minutes of autonomous. Whereas in FTC, you have 2 minutes of driver control in addition to 30 seconds of autonomous. So during the 30 seconds of autonomous, yes, you're starting a program and the robot just runs it based on your code. But those 2 minutes of driver control, there is constant communication between the driver hub and the control hub. And that is being achieved with the Wi-Fi connection that is directly between the two. Now, as we go along, if you guys get questions related to this, please don't hesitate to let us know. And for that matter, any questions? It seems like 80% of the students here have done FTC before. So if you have questions based on what you've seen last year, do not hesitate to ask us. Please ask us. Like we said, I've coached FTC multiple years, although right now I coach FRC. And we have students who've done FTC many years, We have several students who made it, who won the Washington State Championship, made it to finals and so on. So we have good experience and are happy to share the information. Okay, so, oh, we have some questions in chat. Future Martians, can we get some of you guys on the meeting so that you can monitor the chat and let us know if someone has questions? Okay, I think so far it's largely been about members telling us if it's their first year. Okay. So yeah, definitely use the chat if you have questions, or if you're stuck at some stage, please do raise your hand or enter something in the chat. We have how many, like 6, 7? We have about 8 FRC team members here, all waiting to help. So please go ahead and ask your questions in chat. Okay. Yeah, those banners are never easy. We've seen that. They want to keep falling off.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we are a rookie team for FTC. Our kids have done FLL in the past.
Okay.
In FLL, like how you would like load those code on the robots, right? That the driver was basically the robot. It was all autonomous. In the
Right.
telemetry, although here in FTC, so what is like the difference between the role of this driver hub versus the extension hub? In what circumstances we would use it, and where the kids would be actually programming and which part they won't be programming. Like I don't think
Okay.
they have understanding of that when you went through those slides.
All right, we'll take a step back then. So I'm going to go reverse order here. So the driver hub, this is used. So there's an app that is going to be installed on this, which it already comes installed with. But as you'll see in our next few minutes, there is a software called Rev Hardware Client, which we use to update the apps on the driver hub. So you can use it to update, install operating system updates as well as application updates. That application is called the driver station. And you never customize the driver station. It simply has a way of communicating with your robot. That's all the driver station does. So that's on the driver hub. Now, going back. Okay, let's go back to the control hub. Yeah. So the control hub, this is the one which is on your robot. I'll get to the expansion hub in a moment, but the control hub is the one which is on the robot. And again, there is an application that is installed on the control hub, and that is called the robot controller app. So it's another .apk file. Now, there's 3 ways in which we're kind of jumping ahead here, but as you all know, there's block coding, there's onboard Java, and there's Android Studio based development. But at the end of the day, with all of these, what we're achieving is the custom code that is being created, either by block or by actually writing the code. That custom code which you're creating, that is being overlaid on top of the default robot controller app. And that's how the customization is achieved. And this default robot controller app, that is provided in the FTC SDK. So when you start building your FTC app, you are basically starting with the baseline. So a lot of classes are already out there, and basically the backbone of how the robot is going to be controlled, all of that is already in the robot controller app. The customizations you add, those are really related to the specific motors you might have, the specific sensors you might have on your robot. So that is where your custom code comes into play. So when you install your custom code on the control hub, what you're doing is you're taking that base robot controller app, which first gave you, you're adding your code on top of that, compiling it, making a new .apk. So at that point, it's a custom robot controller app. And that custom robot controller app is being installed on the control hub. Just like how you guys install applications from the Play Store, similar to that, here you're just, as a developer, you're installing it directly on your device, which is the control hub. Now, the control hub provides you the ability to connect 4 DC motors and 6 servo motors, as well as several sensors. And it includes an internal IMU. The expansion hub, so let's take a step back. Now, if it supports only 4 DC motors, and as you can see, most of these robots, they will end up using 4 DC motors just for the 4 wheels you have on there. Of course, there's ways in which you could create drive bases with 2 motors and drive all 4 wheels, but those are going to not have as much fine control or the same abilities as something where you use mechanism wheels, in which case you are having the ability to control each wheel individually, and that results in specific actions. Can we have some people help with that? Okay, so coming back to this, if you use 4 motors for the 4 wheels, you have no more ports left for the DC motors. So how are you going to work on some strong mechanism which might need something more than a servo? That would be impossible if you're using only the control hub. And that is why we use the expansion hub. So the expansion hub, just as its name suggests, is literally providing you the ability to add the exact same amount of hardware as the control hub does, which means you can add 4 DC motors, you can add 6 servos, and again, more ports for sensors. The one thing that the expansion hub does not include, that is the more recent ones do not include, is the IMU sensor. The reason being, a robot needs only one IMU sensor. You in fact do not want more than one being read and used. That could lead to conflicting information. Now the control hubs, they have an IMU in there. The IMU is like your gyroscope or like your gyro sensor from the color. That is how you're able to tell the orientation, the acceleration, and all those different types of things. Now for the most basic stuff, we'll talk about the IMU as if it's a gyro sensor, although it includes a few other abilities. So any questions based on that clarification on what exactly is the control hub, the expansion hub, and the driver hub? Do we have any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, sure. No. Okay, so at this point, we want to start on the configuration with the web hardware thing. And if this falls again, just leave it, ignore it. So Sashmit, you are going to talk about, right? So Sashmit here, he's our director of software and really smart guy. He's actually in college during high school age. All right, okay. So we do want to show this on another, like on a Windows laptop, but you go ahead and explain these various this various information, and then we'll do that.
All right. Okay, so we talked about the 3 main pieces of hardware, the 3 hubs on which code is downloaded and run, but now we have to have the software tools to operate these. And so the first part of that is viewing and updating the firmware that is on these hubs. So the app that we use for that is the Rev Hardware client. It will be, you need to plug it into the Android device, which is either your control hub or your driver hub. And it will allow you to, as you see over here, it will allow you to view and update the firmware. It's a good practice always to keep the latest of firmware on all of your devices. And beyond viewing and updating firmware, you can also do other things on this, but this is the main reason that you would use this. And to update the actual robot controller that you use, you'll just need to download the most recent version of the SDK. So that itself is not considered a firmware, so it's not going to be updated by this. If you have an outdated version of the SDK, ensure that you download the latest FTC robot controller. And we'll show you how to do that later today. Okay, so do we have computer ready to share? We do. Okay. Do I need to stop sharing this? It depends. Okay. All right. We're now going to share a screen of what this actually looks like so you can see.
Yeah, so as was mentioned, one really, in a way, it's annoying, but the Rev Hardware client works only on Windows machines. It does not work on a Mac or a Linux machine. Hence, if you have a Mac, but the good thing is this is not a piece of software that you're going to be using all the time. you really use it, a few times in the season when you're just checking to make sure that your control hub, your expansion hub, and your driver hub all have the latest software and they have the latest APK file, especially the driver hub installed on there. Now, you should definitely do this the week after the new season is announced, because what you'll see is the FTC SDK that we're going to use today, it's the last version of the previous season. They always release a new FTC SDK version after the new season is announced, because it will have artifacts related to the new game, which is why they will not give it away before kickoff happens. So please remember that whatever hardware you might have, right? The control hub, the driver hub, the expansion hub, as well as your Android Studio setup, you will have to update to the latest version of software or firmware and applications for all of these. And only 1 or 2 people on the team really need to be able to do this, because once you update the hardware, it's done. It's set up and everyone else can continue using that.
Is there a way I can
So
just-
any concerns or any questions on that aspect, which is what if almost everyone only has a Mac or a non-Windows machine? Any
I'm not a
concerns, anyone?
host. Okay, I'll just stop now.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing this so that you guys can see Harry's screen. Okay.
Okay.
So this is what the Rev hardware client looks like. As I said, we connect this with USB to the Android device, which is either your control hub or your driver hub. And when you do that connection, you'll be able to see the firmware version that's there and update if necessary. So we're currently connecting to that. One second.
Oh, yeah. We were curious about what was being done here. We had to shift, the presentation is being done on a Mac laptop, so we had to shift to a Windows laptop and make a connection to the robot that we have here for testing.
Yep.
And if you're sharing your screen, they should be able to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, okay, well, we connected to the control hub here, and the control hub is connected to the expansion hub. So just by connecting to the control hub, we're able to see both the control hub and the expansion hub devices, as you can see there. So now if we click on one, we can see the firmware. Hooray. Yes.
Are we out of date on anything?
We are the
are,
operating
okay.
system. So you can see here at the top, the current version of the Control Hub operating system is 1.1.4. The recommended version and the latest version is 1.1.6. So you can just easily update it there if we wanted to.
You can do that.
Same goes for the robot controller app and the expansion Control Hub. The expansion, yes, the firmware for the control and expansion hub. Yeah. So it's very easy to update like that, and this is something you should do the week after the season starts, as we said.
And again, just to clarify that, we have the Control Hub operating system, which is really the version of Android that is on there. So that is one. And then we have the robot controller app. So that is the .apk file we were talking about. And that's based on what is the latest SDK provided by FIRST for FTC. And then the very last one, you can see it says firmware. So that's the third type of upgrade or update that might be needed. And that is beyond the operating system on your control hub and expansion hub. It's like a BIOS update if you know what BIOS is from the PC world. Any questions, anyone, on those 3 different aspects? So a few more things based on experience. Now, in the robot inspection list, there is going to be a minimum version that is required for your robot when you head out to your first competition. Please do not try to make updates the previous day of competition, the suggestion is give yourself some time. There may be some surprises. You may want to make sure that everything's working fine. So do not suddenly start updating all of this after you're done with all the coding and testing is going on and the day before comp. Do not do that. So the suggestion is go ahead and do your updates at least a week before competition. And do not worry if they release something 2 days before the comp. Firstly, read the release notes. Unless it's a critical update, you should be able to get away with a minor update not having been done. What I mean by that is, if let's say the latest version is 11.1.2, as long as you're with 11.1, you should be able to pass inspection. So don't worry about having to necessarily be at 11.1.2. Okay.
All right. So if there are no questions on this, then we can go back to our presentation.
So yeah, anyway, the same way that you're seeing the operating system being updated here, you can upgrade the robot controller app. One thing to add about the robot controller app, for those who are going to be using onboard Java, this is the way you should make sure that you have the latest robot controller app. Because in onboard Java, you are not going to be building your APK and installing the APK. Instead, the APK which is already on there on the control hub, you're going to be editing the code directly on your control hub with onboard Java. Sashmit was going to get into all the details for that, but just wanted to draw that distinction. Whereas if you're using Android Studio, this robot controller app which you install, it always gets overridden with the one you are building from Android Studio. Okay. So if any coaches are on here and listening to this, please, if you have questions, let's discuss that, because understanding that distinction is very important.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about how onboard Java works in the next few slides as well. But yeah, that's an important thing. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's get back to sharing this. Oh, no. Okay. Hooray. All right. So now let's get into the actual coding. So, of course, Java is the programming language that we use in FTC. As we've said, we're not going to be teaching Java in this camp. So it'll be helpful if you are familiar with Java coding concepts. We're going to be focusing in this camp on setting up the tools you need to code with Android Studio, as well as going over some FTC specific programming. We're going to look at some of the classes and some of the methods that you're going to need to operate the motors and the servos and the sensors that are specific to FTC. So before coding, there are three main options. There's Android Studio, which is like an external application that you have on your computer. And it's not provided by FIRST, but it allows you to write your own code and put your own APK, as we said, on the control hub. And then there's also onboard Java and block coding, which are provided by FIRST. And those allow you to directly edit the APK that is already installed on the control hub. So your computer is not going to be downloading any code. It gets written directly on to the control hub if you use onboard Java or blocks. We're going to be mainly talking about Android Studio in this camp because it requires a lot of a setup that's often a bit difficult and lengthy to do. But if you're interested in using onboard Java, it is pretty simple, and we're going to talk about that now. All right, so what is onboard Java? So as we said, it's provided by FIRST, and it's used on a web browser. There's no app installation required. It's hosted directly on the control hub. So you are writing code directly onto the control hub device rather than downloading it on your computer and then putting it onto the control hub. As such, you only need to press one button to compile the code onto the control hub. And as soon as that's done, your program is available to run from the driver hub. The FTC SDK and Java tools come with onboard Java because it's already in the APK that's present on the control hub. So you don't need to download anything or add any additional code if you're using onboard Java. You just add and edit your own programs. And because onboard Java is online and because it's directly on the control hub, you don't have multiple versions. So there's no concept of source control. So everyone can access updated versions instantly. Basically, this eliminates Git. So when we talk about Android Studio, we're going to talk about how we do source control with Git. And that is essentially a way to keep track of multiple versions of your code so that you have a code base that always houses one version of your code that people can pull from. In OnBot Java, we don't have that. So everyone accesses updated versions instantly. You don't need to push your changes, and you don't need to pull from a code base. You make a change, and instantly it's available to anyone else using OnBot Java. Okay, are there any questions about how OnBot Java works? No? All right. So now let's talk about how to use OnBot Java. So because you are writing code straight on the control hub, you need to connect to your control hub's Wi-Fi the same way that the driver hub connects to your control hub's Wi-Fi network. Your computer needs to also connect it into the control hub. And once you have that connection, you can enter this address into your browser, and it will open a web interface. That web interface is how you can manage your control hub from your computer. So it's not just for OnBot Java, it's also for blocks and any logs or any other files you want to store on your control hub, as well as any managing or those kind of things that you need to do for the code that's on your control hub. So when you open OnBot Java, all you need to do is create a new file and start coding. Again, the SDK is already going to be there on your control hub. So you just need to create a new program and write the code. There are templates available for this. You can choose autonomous op mode, a teleop, or not an op mode. And essentially, an op mode is an operating mode. It's a code, it's a program that can run. So if you are writing a program that can actually run on your robot, it needs to be either autonomous or teleop. But you can also write programs that do not run on your control hub. That's not an op mode. And an example of this is the DC motor class. The DC motor class is considered a utility class because it provides methods that you use to operate hardware on the robot. But the DC motor class itself will never run on your robot. You use the methods provided by that class in other op modes. But the DC motor class itself is not an op mode because it does not run on your robot. So if you want to write other utility classes like the DC motor class, you can do so as well. And you can choose this template. It sets up all the configurations so that it appears correctly on the driver station. And the driver station knows whether it's autonomous or it's a teleop. And as soon as you have finished writing your code, there's a single build button, and you just build the code straight onto the control hub. And as soon as it's done, your code is available to run from the driver station. It's pretty easy. All right. Are there any questions on how to use OnBot Java? Oh, chat. Oh, no. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I believe you can access OnBot Java in the Rev hardware client. Yes. Okay, yes. Yeah. So similar to this web interface that you get by typing this address into your browser when you're connected to the control hub, the Rev hardware client also functions in the same way. So you can definitely access these programming tools from the Rev hardware client. And this is a way in which you can do it with a USB connection. So if you don't want to connect your Wi-Fi into the control hub, and you have a USB connection, then you can definitely code on OnBot Java from the Rev hardware client.
So just to expand on that last part which Sashmit mentioned, which is the fact that if you are using a laptop and you want to continue to have access to the internet while also working with OnBot Java, there's two ways you can achieve that. One is you have a Windows laptop and you're connected to the internet with your Wi-Fi, and then you're connected to the robot with a USB cable. And you have Rev hardware client working. So that's one way. Now, the other way is you could get a separate Wi-Fi dongle. And that way you have two Wi-Fi adapters on your laptop. One is connected to the internet, the other one is connected to your robot. So that's another way you can get away with it. And you would need the second way, that's the only working mechanism if you have a Mac laptop, because with a Mac laptop, you obviously cannot be running the Rev hardware clients. Okay. Any questions from anyone regarding that?
Mhm.
Yes.
With Wi-Fi, can there be multiple computers connected to?
Yes. Yeah. And if you're doing that, it's just important to be careful that you don't have two people editing the same program at the same time. Again, because there's no concept of a source control in on-bot Java. If you do that, the whole program is going to be deleted. So yeah, it's important to make sure that because updated versions, because people can access updated versions of the code instantly, that there is only one version of every program at any given time. But yes, there can be multiple people connected at the same time for sure.
So if two people did connect and make edits at the same time to the same file, whoever saves it second, that's going to overwrite the first person's code.
Okay.
Do you want to go to the next screen, or do we showing this at this?
Let's
Okay,
show
so-
Harry's screen. Okay. Cool. So this is exactly the screen you see here is exactly the one you would see if you entered that address into the browser while your Wi-Fi was connected to the control hub. You can see on the top menu there, you have blocks, on-bot Java, manage, and help. So these are basically how you operate the control hub from your computer.
We're taking just a moment to see if we can zoom that screen in. Okay, all right.
Okay, we got it. Hooray. All right, so if you want to code in blocks, that's there, and on-bot Java is also there. So if you click on-bot Java, yes. So you can see here, this is essentially the folder that you see there, org.firstinspires.ftc.teamcode. That is the folder in which all of your programs go. It is a folder within the larger code base that's there on your control hub. And all of the inbuilt classes that First provides, the entire SDK is in that code base. This team code folder is the one in which you write your code. So if you want to create a new program, you just click that a plus button. And here you see, okay, in file type, those are the templates I was talking about. So you have Java class is not an op mode. If you want an op mode, you'll have to go for the blank op mode, and then you can either configure it as a teleop or an autonomous. Iterative and linear op mode, those are two different ways in which your code can run. An iterative op mode is basically based on a loop. It is a continuous loop that runs every 20 to 50 milliseconds while your code is active. And it will keep running. And essentially, if you're using an iterative op mode, you cannot have any while loops, or else it will starve the operating loop. What that means is the loop will not be able to run every 20 or 50 milliseconds because your while loop is blocking it from doing so. So iterative op modes are used if you don't have anything that could block the code. But the most common and easier type of op mode to use is a linear op mode. Linear op modes are exactly what it sounds like. It's linear, nothing repeats. So you can have loops, you can have things that take up time, you can have blocking commands in your code. Blocking commands will not allow the code to continue until they are finished. And that's okay because it's not starving any iterative loop. Does that make sense? Okay. So linear op modes are what is the easiest and most common to use. So that's there. You can name your file, and op mode type, I believe, is where you can say teleop or autonomous. Yeah. All right. So if you just click, I don't know, let's do teleop. And just put some name there. We can just see how the file looks. Some name. .java. Okay, and now we create the file. And this is a new teleop op mode that we have created on our control hub. So it will have all the configurations for a teleop op mode. And all you have to do is write your code. We'll talk about writing FTC code tomorrow. But this is essentially what you do. And then when your code is done, when it's ready to run, you click the wrench button on the bottom right corner of the screen, and it will compile the code on your control hub. And now this op mode is available to run from the driver hub. If you go into the teleop op modes, you'll see some name ready to run. All right, any questions there? Anything in the chat? Okay. All right. Then you want to stop sharing? Okay. Cool. No, I need to share. Okay. So back to our slides. All right. This is what I have here is essentially what we saw. This HR test that is on the screen, this is a sample code. So the code base that we have here has a lot of sample programs. So if you want to see how a distance sensor works, or you want to see how a DC motor works, if you want to look at some of the methods there are to operate certain pieces of hardware that you can use, there are many sample programs available that you can use. And this is one of them. You'll see options for a sample code in the same menu when you add a file. And sample programs are really useful if you are experimenting with new sensors, especially because they have a lot of comments in them that really helps you understand how to use the methods that these libraries provide. Okay. And now we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of using OnBot Java over Android Studio. So the advantages, which we've talked about most of these, there's no installation required. And because it compiles code directly onto the control hub, there's very little build time. So the time between when you write the code and when you're able to run it on your driver hub is very little. It's also easy to collaborate on because there's no source control that you have to go through. Updated versions of code are accessible instantly. Now, the disadvantages is that lack of source control makes it hard to track changes to your code. Unless you are manually making backups of your code every time a major change is made, you have pretty much lost previous versions of the code as soon as they're changed, because OnBot Java does not keep a history of code. It also has no capability to load external libraries. So if the library you want to use is not in the SDK, you can't use it if you're using OnBot Java, because you can't load additional code into the APK that's on your control hub. You also need to be connected to the control hub while programming, either through Wi-Fi, which means you're not going to have internet, or through a USB connection. And this essentially means that you will not be able to code if you are not connected to the control hub. If you are away from the control hub, you can't code. However, you can download the code onto your computer and work on it asynchronously. Okay. Any questions about OnBot Java? No? Okay. All right. So with that, we're going to get into the main topic that we're covering in the camp today, which is Android Studio. So Android Studio is a development environment that allows you to code applications for the Android operating system. So as we said earlier, the control hub runs an Android operating system. So Android Studio is how you can code an application for this control hub. Okay. So
So before this, let's just take a quick break for some questions. So we went through a whole bunch of information about the hardware, about and just a primer about how you code for the FTC hardware, and then we went through onboard Java. Now, how many of you already know that you want to use onboard Java or block coding and not Android Studio? Anyone in that frame of thought as of now? So if anybody is already sure that they don't want to be using Android Studio. Okay, all right. Next question. How many of you are unsure whether you want to use Android Studio or onboard Java? Like if you're still in the middle of making that decision.
So yeah, we're still unsure because the advantage and disadvantage that you guys have mentioned here, it looks like if build process and compiling the code and copying it and controlling it via various apps is the only challenge. But if it gives me a better source control, like that's basically the trade-off we are kind of making. In the long run, because multiple people working on the code from your team's experience in the past, at least at FLL, I've seen kids forget to back up, they do lose code. So that seems like a very important aspect. But I would like to learn from your experience of what you guys feel about it.
Right. So of course, the intent of this camp was whoever might be in that situation where you're not sure if you want to really make the jump to Android Studio, to set you up with enough knowledge and even have a setup on your laptop at the end of this camp so that you are supported if you want to do it with Android Studio. That having said, so we mentor a bunch of teams in BLMS, which is Beaver Lake Middle School in Sammamish, Washington. And they make the jump from FLL directly to Android Studio. But having said that, Sashmit has done FTC on Emerald Bots, which is one of the leading teams here in Washington. And they have chosen to stay with onboard Java, although almost all the coding team is familiar with FRC coding even. They're very familiar with Android Studio and they can easily pull that off. But they have chosen to stay with onboard Java. Now, simplicity and having a middle level before you make the jump to the next way of coding are probably some of the reasons. But it really comes down to the coaches seeing what their students are capable of and what they're comfortable with, as well as some practical considerations like, okay, we have a team of 15, in which with coding members being like 6 or 7 coding team members. Onboard Java would probably not be the best idea. But there could be a team with 8 or 10 members, and it's really 1 or 2 students who are into the coding aspect. In that case, onboard Java, you can definitely pull it off if you want to. But at this camp, our intent is if you're stuck or if you're unsure, to give you a 2-day exercise of what it's going to take to do this in Android Studio. And at the end, you may make the decision, oh yeah, this is fine. We can do it with Android Studio, and you make the jump. Or you might decide that, hey, this is too complex, and we want to stick with onboard Java or block coding, and that is fine too. So as we go along, please do ask us questions, which will help you gather the knowledge that can make it easier for you to make that decision.
Yeah. Onboard Java, I mean, as we said, it becomes harder to use the more people you have, because if you have people who are editing programs at the same time, or if you want to be able to edit code when you're not physically close into the control hub, you're going to have to do it outside of the coding environment itself. Whereas in Android Studio, no matter where you're coding, all you have to do is push your code to the repository that you have, and it's all in one place pretty much. So the more people you have, it definitely becomes harder to use onboard Java. Another big disadvantage of onboard Java is that you can't use external libraries. The team that I'm on has not found that to be a huge problem, because there are a lot of good libraries that come with the SDK. For example, OpenCV is in the SDK, the April tag library is in the SDK. There are many other advanced libraries that are included in the SDK. So we haven't found this to be too much of a problem, but I know a lot of other teams who have used external libraries and have had a lot of success with them in the past. And for that, you would need to use Android Studio. The main reason that at least the FTC team that I'm on has chosen to stay with onBot Java is because of simplicity. We're able to do some pretty complex things in code while keeping our cycle times low and still keeping everything streamlined, because as long as you remember to manually take backups of your code and store them in some OneDrive or something, it functions pretty much like a source control. And the main thing is it reduces the cycle time and it's just overall easier to use. But the goal of this camp is to take you through all the setup for Android Studio so that you have that as an option and then you can make that choice. Yeah. Also, there was a question in the chat about the difference between block coding and Java. And there's actually quite a big difference. So with blocks, you cannot create a custom classes. If you want to create your own classes, your own utility classes, you can do that in Java, right? There's an option to create a class that is not an op mode in Java. You can't do that in blocks. So you are stuck using the classes that are in the SDK, and that's all. So if you want to make amendments to the DC motor class or to the servo class, you can't do that. Also, there is very limited functionality in blocks. Writing your own functions and the whole object-oriented framework is really not there in blocks, which means it's just a lot less functional. And it's definitely less efficient because like if you've ever seen the block interface, it quite frankly looks very ugly. It is, I think, very hard to use. And I've used blocks before, and I think Java's easier.
Yeah, just to add one more aspect, there is teams that may not have a strong software sub-team or may not have students who have ever done anything beyond scratch coding. Those might be the ones to whom block coding would look attractive. I would say if you have students who've done FLL, they've already covered block coding, and FTC is a great opportunity to make that next jump. Whether it's a jump to onBot or whether it's a jump to Android Studio, that's left to the team's decision. But yeah, like he said, strongly suggest do not stay stuck with block coding if you can help it. But if you have a team that's never done any kind of command line coding or any kind of textual coding, then and if the coach also is not very familiar and they feel like we want to take a year of block coding, that is an option. But frankly, as a coach, I would say it would be a wasted year if you did that, because I think the students are really more capable than we give them credit for. They are really capable of picking up at least onBot Java, even if they don't have much prior experience, because FTC is for 7th graders and above. So like I said, BLMS, we have students jumping from FLL in 6th grade to FTC in 7th grade. And at the end of the season, they are comfortable working with Android Studio.
Yeah. Blocks is really, I mean, for teams that are using Java, the only reason that you might want to use blocks is if you have some very simple thing that you don't want to make a whole op mode for. Like if you need to zero a servo or just run a motor, that's something that you could use blocks for. But yeah, I think doing your entire code on blocks would, I think, be more difficult than Java. Okay, so with that, let's move on to, okay, Android Studio. There we go. Okay, so we already talked about this. It is an application that you download on your device that allows you to code your own applications for the Android operating system, which means instead of editing the APK that is already on the control hub, you are essentially building your own APK and then overriding the one that's on the control hub with yours. So in that way, it does allow you much more freedom with what you can code. And yeah. Okay. So install this. have to.
Oh, right. Okay. So let me take a moment here.
Yeah.
Now, for all the students, both remote and in person, we had sent an email, either, to the registered email address, which might have been yours or it might have been your parents. And we had requested that that Android Studio be installed because it's a long download. Now, this morning, though, I sent a clarification that for FTC SDK, they require you to download the version called Ladybug, not the latest version of Android Studio. Now, so I'm going to go ahead and ask here. So in person first, how many of you firstly installed Android Studio? Okay. And how many of you installed not Ladybug, but the latest version? Okay. Just one. Okay. So the others, you all have Ladybug version installed, correct? Okay, perfect then. So for those who have, okay, now let's check online. So online, how many of you have installed, or how many of you have not installed either of the versions or any of the Android Studio versions? If you can please raise your hand in Zoom, we can take a quick look. Okay, so it seems like everyone has installed Android Studio. Now, how many of you have installed the latest version, not Ladybug? If you can please raise your hand, that'll help. Okay. Seems like everyone has Ladybug installed. That's great. One person online?
I haven't,
Oh,
not Ladybug.
not Ladybug. Okay. So for the one person who has not installed Ladybug, could we request you to uninstall Android Studio? And then let us paste that link in
Yeah.
chat. So Rocky, do you have Windows or Mac?
Windows.
Windows, okay.
Mm.
All right, so if you can please copy the link for Windows.
Is it?
So I think it's the next slide. Wait. Did we have one where we listed all the, oh, that was the previous.
Oh, got it. There were only 2 links there for Android Studio.
Okay, so let us copy that link, paste it.
Oh, like this one. Got it.
Oh, we're gonna have to end the show and then copy that link. So please give us a moment while we share this link.
Mm. Please copy it. Oh, wait, not the whole
Yeah.
link.
So the behavior is different on a Mac and on a Windows system.
Can you also provide for the Mac? Because
For Mac,
another
okay,
laptop
we'll
is-
just copy all these then.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better we. Hold on, this one has Discord, so yeah, we should just copy it from our Discord server.
Okay. We're not sharing anymore, right? Oh, we should stop the share.
Thanks. Wait, where? Chat, Zoom chat. Wait.
Yeah. It's
Okay, so we are pasting direct links. Oh, hold on. Let's add the characters. Okay, so those are direct links to the installers for the appropriate version of Android Studio. So please go ahead and download that if you need to do that.
Got it.
And so you have. Okay, can we check?
no. Slideshow. What? Oh, okay. No, no. Cancel. What?
So
No.
while we're waiting for a couple of minutes for whoever needs to uninstall to do so, just a quick thing. If you look at the release notes for the FTC SDK version 10.3, at the top it says it needs to be Ladybug, and then in a later statement they say Ladybug or later. Now, what is ambiguous is when they say later, do they mean because they have a Ladybug version, was that 10.3? Right. So just a quick clarification on that. In the release notes in a later place, it says you need Ladybug, and then it says 2024.2 or later. What's ambiguous is whether they mean a later version of Ladybug or do they mean any later version of Android Studio itself. We know that there were some Gradle issues in the past, so at least for the purpose of this camp, we are going to request that you stay with the latest version of Ladybug, which is 2024.2.2 from what we see there. Yeah, 2024.2.2.15. So please stick with that for the purpose of the camp. After the camp is done, if you want to update to the latest one and try it out, please do so. But know that you may have to uninstall and just redo the whole thing if you start having Gradle issues. Anyone have any experience having tried a different version or any questions about this?
Yeah, the older version, that's fine, right? Just follow.
Koala should be fine. But if there are issues, because there could be issues related to the Gradle builds, because the Gradle version that was bundled with Koala would be a version or two behind what is needed for the latest Gradle file. I would actually suggest update. Okay. Mhm.
It's just on this.
So if you have not yet installed, if you just had the installer downloaded, then please go through these steps, which is executing the installer and then going through what's needed to complete the installation. Okay, so we have one feedback here about having used the latest version of Android Studio, which is Narwhal, and with the current SDK and not having had any issues. So it sounds like you will be able to get away with it if you have done that. But again, just for the purpose of this camp, since you all have Ladybug, let's continue to use Ladybug, and then you can experiment with the latest version after that. And the reason we are doing that is if you look at the SDK release notes for 10.3, which is the latest, they do have a statement right at the top saying use Ladybug and not a later version.
Are we just waiting until everyone gets the Ladybug?
Yeah, I think everyone's. We only had 2 people who needed to
Okay.
change from Ladybug. So
Okay, so should we start on the SDK or should we wait?
let's give them a
Or
minute.
still going through the initial setup. I saw at least one person, like on that, like,
Oh, okay, all right.
like not in the installer, so like.
So yeah, at this point, part of the camp is getting you through the installation. So at this point, mic's open. If you're having issues, let's talk. The others who are on, it'll be good learning cycle for them as they hear what kind of issues might be encountered. So if anyone's in the middle of installing and you have questions or comments, please go ahead and let us know.
If anyone online has questions, feel free either to put them in the chat or to unmute and speak. Have it downloaded? Do you have it downloaded?
It's almost there.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said. Would you mind repeating yourself?
It's almost there.
Almost there. Okay. All right. Yeah, if you're having any issues, please share. That's good to hear.
Yeah. We should take a standard, right? Not a custom. When we do the
That's
installation
standard.
time.
Yes,
Yes,
that's good.
yes. It, yeah.
So all the in-person, okay, that's fine. This is good.
After this SDK and then get
So in person, are we good to go?
Everyone has it? Okay, online?
You're almost
Okay,
done.
all right, well, wait, is there,
Oh, okay.
oh, okay. Is there anyone online who has not finished yet?
We are done too.
Okay,
Okay, perfect.
all right,
So then at this point, we'll continue.
Okay.
Next slides.
all right, yeah, and if anyone's still waiting for their, for their installer, these, you can just do this after, these will be there. Okay, so now that we have our environment, we need to get the framework for the APK that we're going to be putting on the control hub. We need all of the inbuilt classes, and we need the framework in which we're going to write our own programs. And that is the SDK, the FTC Robot Controller. So we're going to be downloading this as a zip file and then opening it in Android Studio so that we have our project in which we can make our programs. So please open up this link. I'm going to
So-
put this in the chat.
Yeah,
No.
while they're doing that, there's one quick thing I want to get into. Now, the reason we're going to go through this approach where you're downloading the source code and then setting it up this way is so that you learn how to use GitHub and Git the right way. This is not something every member on the team needs to do. One person in the coding team needs to do this, but we want you all to have the knowledge to be that one person who can do this, which is why we're going to go through this exercise. Now, there's in some of the later slides, you're going to see how the easier way to get hold of the FTC SDK and make sure that you continue to have the latest version of updates that might be coming from first is to do something called forking a repo. I don't want to get into details yet because later on in the day, we will be talking about Git and GitHub, and that's when forking will be covered. But what we want to make sure is if anyone's wondering, wait, why are we doing it this way? This is going to result in issues later. You are right. If you did it this way, what's going to happen is it first sends you some updates to the SDK. You're going to have to manually grab those updates and put it into your code, which is not doable. There's teams that do it, and there's a reason why certain teams to choose to do that, which is if you fork a repo, that repo needs to be public, which means your code will be accessible to anybody else who is able to find it. Whereas if you're a cutting edge team that really wants to hold on to your ideas and some of the stuff you've come up with, some algorithms you've come up with, which is totally fine. If you want to do that, then you will have to set up your repo this way and have the ability to manually keep updating your repo so that anytime first is sending out updates, you need a person on the team who's grabbing those files and adding it to your repo. That way you can keep your repo private. This is our experience, but with other coaches on here and experienced students on here, if you have something you want to add, please do share. Or if you have questions about what we just mentioned, we can talk about it. We can talk about it now or after we've gone through some of these exercises and we get to the forking slide, which I think will be the first thing tomorrow morning. We could talk about it then also if you want. Okay. If anyone wants to discuss this now, please raise your hand or send a message in chat.
What's the message?
Is that already done?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we did not see anyone raise hands. So what we'll do is we'll continue, and then when we get to forking, we'll talk about what we just did a
Okay.
little more detail.
Does anyone need to see that last slide again? No? Oh, there's a message in the chat.
Can you
Yeah.
please send that link? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's in there. Okay. Did anyone need to see the last slide again? Is that
Oh, you sent the link?
yes?
Okay.
But so someone responded yes, meaning I think they wanted to see this again. The SDK slide. Okay. Okay. If you need to see anything here, have it. Okay. All right.
Okay, now we'll have Naman, who's our in-house Git and GitHub expert. And he's been on the software team for multiple years, both in FTC and FRC, and he's also was our director of electrical. Okay,
So you might be asking, like, what is Git? So Git is a source control system that's used to track changes in code over time. Some people might ask, like, why you would use Git. So let's say, like, I made changes to my code, and I'll tell everyone on the software team that I made changes. But I forget to tell, like, Harry over here that I made changes. Harry won't even know that I made any changes, and he'll, like, start coding on the old version, and that'll cause a lot of issues down the line. So what you can do is tell Git you made your changes, and everyone can check them there. And the way everyone checks them is by uploading them to the GitHub, which is the online cloud provider that hosts the changes that you make in Git.
so at this point, just a quick question. Have any of you here dealt with any kind of source management system? So GitHub, these are all source management system. What that means is it's a way of managing your source code. Have any of you had experience doing this? And if anyone has online, please raise your hand or send a message.
I think we've had
Ranveer,
few
yes,
people,
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
And then these hands.
So we see a few hands up here. So as we go through this, if you have something to add, or if you have a question on what we're teaching, and if it's something different from what you know, please bring it up. Let's talk about that. It'll help you as well as others.
So there's like a few key terms you need to know when you're working with Git. Repository or repo is like a collection of files that are combined with their history that are managed by Git. So it's like a folder along with all the changes you've made to the folder that are stored. And then a commit is a group of changes made to files along with a description of the changes. So it's like a point in history each time you want to make a commit. A clone is a local copy of a repository in GitHub that's on your computer. Push is when you upload all your local changes or your commits to GitHub, and a pull is when you get them from GitHub. Any questions?
I know these are a lot of terms that might seem like, wait, those are just a lot of words with description.
Mhm.
But as we go along the next few slides and exercises, it'll start making sense when you use each of these terms and what they really mean from a Git and GitHub perspective.
Okay, let's get started with installing Git and then creating your repo. So if you're on Windows, you'll have to go to this link to get your Git, and I'll send that in the chat. If you're on Mac OS or Linux, you should already have it installed.
So you can copy it from Discord and once stop sharing for a
Yeah.
while.
Scroll back up.
Fortunately, while I'm on slideshow, you cannot copy. So again, just a reminder that this step is required only for Windows users. Mac and Linux users, as well as Chrome OS users, will not need to install this explicitly. It's already on the
Yeah.
system.
I think Harry will walk through that process for a second because it's kind of complicated.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, sure. Yes.
So we'll share a screen on Windows just to show the process because it's a little bit complicated. Yeah. 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 Can you open the Git link? So you just go to the website and then you click the latest release and download for Windows. And you would scroll, yeah, and then install that. We'll just wait for a second.
It's gonna take a minute. I'm just gonna.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. We're gonna.
We already have a downloaded version, so we'll just use that.
Yeah. Okay.
So you just allow it to have admin access. And then through all of these, you want to mostly click through defaults, but there's a few settings you want to change. So when you see select components, you need to click the option that says add a Git bash profile to Windows terminal. Yeah. Does anyone need to wait here for a second so they can catch up, or?
Yeah, let's just give it a moment.
Yeah. Okay, I guess we'll continue then. Yep, and then
Git which one it was? 48020? Is there
I'm
his
sorry.
lot three versions are there?
Let's go back to that web page.
Yeah, you would just go to the latest release.
Let's see.
No, not this one. I'm talking about after you get the setup, they're actually giving you replace the file git with some process ID number.
Oh, maybe they already have an older version of Git.
Yeah, I think you might already have a version of it installed.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
In which case, yes, it should be safe to replace that with
Mhm.
what you're installing.
Yeah. From that point on, you can just go through all the default options. You don't have to change any of the settings. And then you just have to let it install. Give it a second.
So what we're going to do is, after this install has been completed by everyone who has Windows, in the sense while you're going through this, we will also start our 15-minute break so that anyone who needs to catch up is able to catch up during that time.
Yeah.
It's 11:28 Pacific right now. I think from 11:30 Pacific to 11:45 Pacific, we're going to take a 15-minute break.
Yeah.
For those who are here in person, if you have a snack or anything you want to have, please go ahead.
And during the break, if anyone has any issues, they can always ask, and we'll be here.
How do you find Git on Mac?
Yeah. How do you work with Git on Mac?
Oh, it's already installed. So after the break, we'll go ahead and cover it, but
Okay.
it's already integrated into everything you have. So you just follow the normal steps and you don't have to do anything beyond that.
All right. Okay. No. Thank you.
Meaning the steps that we will be
We'll be
covering.
covering after
Yeah.
the break. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm. Did you get it down? Are you good?
So while we are having the break, if anyone's interested, the robot that you're seeing on the screen there, that was one of the ones which the current FRC students built, I think for Power Play. That was 3 years ago. And we might be using that, but then we have another platform which we use for teaching.
They never fill up. Yeah. You got it like middle of the year. Yeah, but you can buy like that. They have no one like that. Usually the service.
So everyone, we are going to start in about a minute. So if you've all had your chance to take a break, please prepare. We're going to start in a minute.
All right, welcome back from the break. We're gonna go ahead and continue where we left off. Presentation. You open the presentation.
Yeah, it's in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we'll go ahead and continue with this. So by now, hopefully everyone has installed Git on their computers. So on a Windows, which we're currently showing right now, we'll show you how to open up the specific terminal for Git. So if you can open up Git bash. So you'll need to open up. Yeah. So you have to open up it's called Git bash, and you have to open it. And this will behave a lot like the Linux terminal. So from now on, all the commands we follow through on the Mac can also be done on the Windows computer as well. For a Mac, you'll just have to open up your normal terminal application. So it's just called terminal, and you can just test it out to see if everything works by typing in Git and then hit enter. And it should give you some information like this. And that's how you know it'll work. Oh, are you on a Windows? Or did you follow the process of installing the Git through the installer?
Are you doing this on GitHub?
Yeah. Are you? What do you mean by exactly you're using it on web? Oh, you'll still have to install the Git, like the actual Git on your computer.
You can make like code spaces.
Yeah, I think you still have to install it because you still need to integrate with Android Studio. Yeah. And to the question, how to use Git on a Mac, just open up your normal terminal app. I can actually share and show that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can share over
Yeah.
my share.
Just stop sharing. So we can just go here to terminal. And when your terminal opens up, you can just type in git and you should see some information here. That's how you know it works. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and continue. So did anybody else have any issues with that, or did everyone in person get it to work? Cool. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. So our next step would be to going to the FTC robot controller that we downloaded earlier. So we'll go ahead and open up the terminal or the git bash, depending on your operating system, and you'll type in cd. Has anybody used like the terminal before for programming in person? Okay. Anyone online?
Yeah.
If you have these commands will seem familiar, but if not, and anything's confusing, just feel free to ask. So when you open up your terminal, it'll start in your home folder. So when you do cd, you'll be going into a different folder. So like you do in like your file explorer or your finder, you'll just go to your downloads folder, which is where you install your FTC robot controller. So yeah. Yeah. And then you would go into your FTC robot controller. This depends on what if you renamed it or anything like that. You can always open up your file explorer and check what you named it. But if you unzipped it, it should just be FTC robot controller and then your version, which in this case is 10.3. So you,
I have to CD into it again.
Yeah.
It's depending on what you use up.
Yeah. So at this point, you should be able to type ls, which is basically listing all the files that are in your folder. And you should see a folder called FTC robot controller and then a folder called Gradle, team code, and like stuff like that. Does anybody have any questions or? Cool.
So let's just take a moment to talk about what exactly we're doing here, right? So the first step you did was install Git, which is basically the software that will make it possible to work with something called the Git repository. And if you have it, if you're using Windows, you just install the software to do that. And if you have Mac or Linux, the operating system itself comes inbuilt with the ability to use Git, which is why you did not have to follow that step for Linux-based operating systems. And then the next thing was you went and downloaded the FTC SDK as it is provided by FIRST, and you unzipped it into a folder. So at this point, it's your entire folder structure that is needed to build that Android package, to build that .apk file. It is that entire set of folders, but it has nothing new, nothing custom in there yet. It's exactly, in the Rev hardware client, there was that option to install the robot controller app. Whatever app it gets installed when you use that option, this is the source code that builds that app. So it's all the source needed to build the default application as provided by FIRST. And the first step that you should always follow is add all that source into your GitHub or into your Git repository, because that's your baseline. So if you, let's say the first time you make some changes, you realize you need to revert because maybe you did the build wrong or something was completely messed up, you will be able to easily go back to the default or the baseline, which is the code provided by FIRST. So that's what you're doing here with that first step. Now, what is a repository? Now, it could be, you could create a repository with a single file if you wanted to. Not that it would make much sense to do that. Typically, it's a folder with other folders, with other files, and you are keeping track of that entire directory structure using Git. And it's usually a related set of files. It's a related set of folders. And in this case, it's all the files and folders that are needed for robot controller app. So that is the folder that you are putting into your GitHub or Git repository. So it's one repository which represents a bunch of folders and a bunch of files under those folders. Okay, that's what one repository is. And when you started, I mean, there is no repository when you start with, right? So you are now defining that folder structure that you have after unzipping your FTC SDK, after unzipping that, the FTC robot controller app source code, you are defining that as one repository. And these commands that you're going to follow here are what will achieve that, defining it and uploading it into your local repository. And then there's going to be other actions which will happen. When we get to that, we will start talking. But right now, please understand the word repository, what it really means. And then are we doing any commits yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so when we get to commit, we'll talk about that. But right now, repository is the one word which should start making sense. Yes, we spoke about that.
I have no idea. It just means they're folder thing.
There are reasons.
Right.
to that. So that question was again about forking the FTC SDK API or app as provided by FRC. Yes, a lot of teams will choose to fork it, and we will talk about that. I think after going through some of these slides, we'll talk about that. And you as a team, the software sub-team, along with your coaches, have to decide which path you want to go. Do you want to have this path where you're downloading the SDK and creating your own repo, or do you want to fork a repo and create your own repo? And we'll get into what those words really mean after this. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now you should be in your FTC robot controller folder, and you can just type the command git init. And you should just see that it says initialize empty Git repository in the folder which you've had. What this basically does is it tells Git that I want to start making changes in this folder, and I want you to like track the changes made. Does anyone have any issues getting there? Do you have a question or yeah? Sorry, what?
Helps.
Yeah.
Can someone help you? Oh, yeah, looking there. Okay, how do you feel? Or you're doing this right? Arav, if you can help, one of you guys can help me. So he needs help.
When you're saying you didn't download anything off the SDK, do you mean you didn't install like the FTC robot controller folder? Okay. I'll send the link again, but you have to install that and then you can follow these steps.
Unzip.
Yeah. Unzip and then okay, yeah, just go ahead and download that and then unzip it and you should be able to follow these steps from there.
You want to go to that SDK page and just show what we do?
We'll put it up for a second.
So yeah, if everyone can look at the shared screen, on the right-hand side, wait, actually go to that.
It's kind of bad.
Okay. Just one moment. Yeah, okay, so this is how using GitHub first is making their FTC robot controller source code available to you. And if you look at this page, this is going to be whatever is current. And then on the bottom right, you can see a tag and then it says version 10.3. And please be aware, after kickoff, there's going to be 11.0 and you all want that. So do not assume that you can continue to use what you have from the camp for your next season. You will have to download the new one or you'll have to fork it. We'll get more into that later. But if you can please click on that tag. So when you click on that, you're going to come to this page, which is specific to that version, to that tag. And then if you scroll down, you can see there is source code with zip in brackets. That's what you want to be clicking to get hold of the source as a zip file. And wherever you download that, please unzip that.
Mhm.
After you unzip it, that folder that you create, you could, so I think when you click on this, if you're in Windows, it's going to download it into your downloads folder. And then if you're on Mac, it might still go to downloads or wherever you downloaded your last file. But when you unzip it, please make sure you're unzipping it into a folder location that you intend to use for your code. Now, just to give you some different possibilities, you might unzip it into your documents folder under a subfolder called FTC code. Or you might already have a folder called code under your C drive or D drive, and that's where you want to unzip it. So that's left to you. But just be sure you know exactly where you unzipped that zip file, because that's the location which you are going to be using as your Git location for uploading and creating your repository. Is that clear? Do we have any questions about this from anyone? Maybe we can get the thumbnail view. Wait, something was changed here. Hold on.
Because we're not sharing any.
You're not sharing
We're not
anything?
sharing, yeah.
Oh, that's why. Okay,
Mhm.
understood. I just want to see if anyone has questions.
You can just-
So if anyone has questions, please add it in chat. Yes. So that last comment, yes, you're going to open the file source code zip and then remember where you unzipped it into.
Okay. So everybody would have gotten the git command initiated, if you could. Yeah, the last thing you should see is something like this: initialize the MD git repository in the folder. Okay.
So.
Okay, so
That's a nice.
a tablet is not a viable option for using Android Studio. And in the email we sent, we did request that you would need either a Mac laptop, a Windows laptop, a Linux laptop, or a Chrome OS laptop with Linux enabled. So an iPad really would not be an option to do this. Oh, okay, sorry, I should have read the whole question. Yes, please do stay on the Zoom meeting and then you will have the recording so you can follow the recording to do this later on any laptop or PC.
Okay, let's go ahead and continue. So, by now, I think in the setup, we also mentioned that you have to have a GitHub account. Does anybody not have one?
So in-person attendees, do all of you have a GitHub account? Your own personal GitHub account and a way of logging in?
Yeah.
So there's various ways in which you can log into GitHub. And it can get really overwhelming. You could use your user ID password and then have two-factor authentication, which could be through a PIN on your laptop, or it could be through your phone. Or you could use an app called GitHub Desktop, which is an application just for authenticating and managing repositories. So if you have GitHub Desktop, that's another way of doing this. So for this case, though, they need that code, right? The token.
Not anymore. We'll
They don't need
maybe
the
not. We'll
token?
see.
Okay, all right.
Windows 8.
Right, so because there are various ways in which you can manage authentication for GitHub, we are going to see a range of possibilities and not all of you are going to be doing it the same way. So depending on your case, we'll work with you and make sure you're able to use the right mechanism.
Okay. Yeah. So in the meantime, you'll have to run these two commands and replace these with your name or your email address. And you need to do these so Git knows who you are, and when you upload it, tags all the commits with your name and your email.
Right, so this is something you should be careful about because it is quite possible that you'll be using the exact same configuration through your next season. So please provide your name as you want visible in your commits, which means, you know how we were talking about how others will know that you pushed code or committed code? What is the name you want them to see? Do you want it to be just your first name, last initial, or maybe your full name? Depending on what is acceptable in your team, please make sure you're giving that name. And then the email address. I know in the Washington School District, if the email addresses cannot really, Washington School District, I mean, Issaquah School District, the emails are not always the best to use from school because you cannot use it as a regular email address to get external emails and so on. So we would suggest using your personal email for your GitHub account and for that Git information which you're going to be adding.
Yeah, I would recommend that you use the same email that you signed up to GitHub for Git.
Right, to repeat that, please use the same email address that you used to create your GitHub account, which hopefully is a personal email address because school email addresses, you cannot receive emails, at least here in Issaquah School District. Like, if you need a two-factor authentication code, or if there's an issue remembering password, you may want to receive an email. So.
Yeah, so everyone have all of it.
Is everyone caught up online by writing these two commands? I put them in the chat if that helps.
Okay.
So this might feel slow, but that's the intention of this camp, getting you through these steps, which can be annoying or which you can really use some help with. So yeah, please don't feel like we're stuck. No, this is what we plan to do here, which is getting you out of this this situation.
I think we'll wait a few minutes to let everyone catch up.
Okay.
Yeah. Is everyone caught up, or did anyone else have any issues with installing it? Okay, cool. We'll just wait for a few minutes to let everyone in person catch up.
So you're good to Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and revise some of the steps or go back and talk about some of the steps you guys followed. So everyone downloaded the FTC SDK 10.3, unzipped that, right? That was the first step you should have all done. And after unzipping it, you know the exact location you have unzipped it into, and now you have installed Git and you are in a command prompt window,
Mhm.
or you're in your bash window.
Yeah.
And you're following these steps. So if anyone here hasn't yet reached the point, which is being able to open your command prompt window or your terminal window in Mac or Linux, and being able to run those commands up there, including git init.
Mhm.
Anyone here who has not yet reached the point of being able to run git init, please raise your hand in person. Okay, so and Zoom attendees, if any of you have not reached this point, please let us know now.
Mhm.
Either in chat or by raising your hand. Okay.
Okay, we'll continue from there then. Okay, so everyone, we can now move to the using GitHub section. So on your web browser, you should go ahead and just open up GitHub. Yeah.
I have to log in.
Yeah, we'll just let Harry log in. What we'll do is from the repository that we have locally, which is the FTC robot controller, we'll make one on GitHub, and then we'll push all of our contents to that repository. This will allow everyone else on your team to also access this repository.
Check to make sure
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. So we'll click the new button and you'll see a, yeah, here, if you go back. Yeah. So on your home page of GitHub, once you log in, you should see a green button that says new. So just go ahead and click on that. And you should see a page like this. It'll ask you for the name of the repository and like some details. So you can call this whatever you want, but for the purposes of our camp, we'll be calling this preseason FTC SDK. And you can go down. You're gonna want to make it private for now. Okay. Yeah, and then you can hit create. So everyone should see a screen like this where it says like quick setup. Did anyone else have any issues reaching that screen? Did you guys all get it set up or cool? Okay. We will move on. So now you can go ahead and open up your terminal again. And you should be able to run a few commands. So yeah. Go ahead and run the commands. We'll just quickly type the commands out. So you'll do git remote add origin https://github.com. After that, you will put your username.
Don't put what I think.
Yeah, and then preseason FTC SDK.git, which is the name of the repository you made. Did everyone reach this step?
Yes.
Arav. Choose up. Okay. That should have worked for everyone. Now we can run the next command. Branch. Yeah, git branch. That you'll type in git branch -m with it's capital M and then main. Okay. We'll explain branching a little bit later, but basically you're gonna go on to a certain like version history. Think of it like a timeline that you're gonna use. It's called main. And you can have multiple of these running together on your code. Okay. Cool. Now, since we're an FTC robot controller and we haven't made any new commits yet, all the files that are currently in our folder are considered new. So we can go ahead and type in git add dot, and what this will do is this will add all the changed files in our current folder to Git. So you'll see some warnings, but that's fine. And now all your current files have been are in staging, meaning they're waiting for you to add a description to them, marking what you changed. Did anyone have any issues with that, or? Okay.
So I just want to remind everyone, one of the main purposes of this camp is to get you through all these steps and configurations. There may be issues you run into, and we want to talk and walk through those. And we want to share what issues were encountered with everybody else in the camp as well, because you may encounter it in future, or maybe one of your teammates might encounter it. And we want you to know of all these things that can happen and how to resolve them. So please do bring up any issues that you might face. And we want to make sure you're all able to get through these steps, because that itself is the main intention. So the main intention of the camp is not simply running some code, it is getting through these steps. So please ask us questions as you run into issues.
When I'm adding when I'm adding a file, it's not generating any warnings.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So when I'm trying to add a file like git add git.add, then it's not generating any warnings.
Not getting any warnings is what I heard.
Oh. I don't think that should be an issue, but
do we want to have a breakout room or something?
Yeah. They're saying when they do git add dot, they're not seeing any of the warnings.
That's fine. If you're on Mac, it won't throw any.
And another person said the same thing.
Yeah. I think what Harry just mentioned is if you're not on a Mac, you might not get those issues, which is fine.
Yeah, it's determined by your configuration setting. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Unless you're like,
It's not that big of a deal.
unless you're constantly hopping between Windows and Linux, which I hope most of you aren't, it's not an issue.
Yeah. It's just like the way Git is saving your files. So it's fine if you're not getting any warnings.
But someone else would get-
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, that's like later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you
So-
explain what you mean by you didn't
Wait,
get
wait, so during setup, master was the default that was being set
By Git.
during, by the Git installation.
one sec.
So since that's one of the future steps, let's just wait for a few minutes while we catch up with the others. But we will get to that.
Yeah.
And that's potentially because when you install Git, you might have indicated master as the default branch, not main. But we'll get to that, and let's finish off the other issues up to the point we are in the slides.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So just to really re-explain the git remote command, what that's basically doing is it's telling your local Git repository that you want to follow the repository is set up in GitHub. So, I mean, for what your Git repository knows, they could be like another repository. It doesn't know where you want your push your code to. So we're just telling it that that's where you want to push your code to. The repository that's owned by you.
Wait, go back to.
Yeah.
Are they on this tab now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, they can't see that on.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I can switch to it on.
Okay. So now that we've added all our files to our new commit, we can actually make our. Oh,
I mean, I can scroll up.
we can send the command again if you didn't get it fully.
Did they already do all the username stuff?
Yes.
And so we use like some.
Oh, it's okay. So let's go back a few steps. then.
Yeah, go back to
After
Git.
helping this person out,
Yeah.
let's go back a few
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah.
We also wanted to make sure that everyone got the git config steps done.
So
So
if we can have everyone's attention, including in person, please pay attention to this. We're just going to go back, make sure you got all the steps because we're seeing that some of you may have missed some steps and that'll become an issue later. So if anyone's helping, just pause. We want everyone to listen to this. So firstly, you all have your GitHub account created and you have an email address that you remember that you've used. And the first couple of steps that needed to happen was setting up your Git configuration, the global configuration for your Git account, which would involve setting this. So please make sure that every one of you, both remote and in person, has completed these steps, which is setting your user.name and your user.email. And the user.name could be different from, Adnan, I want all eyes here. So you might have used a different name from what you use in your account, that's okay. But for the email, please use the same email address that you used for your GitHub account. Okay. So once you've done that, then we hope you've managed to get through all these steps. Have we had them?
not all of them. No.
Not all of them,
No.
just up to add?
Yeah.
Okay, so up to the third command here, which is git add, and then the period there simply means everything under the current directory. For those who may not know what that dot is, when you're working command line and you're mentioning directory structures, sometimes you might have dealt with a dot and a slash and then something else, which basically means from the current location, you're giving it a reference path. And if you just say dot, it simply means everything in the current directory and all the subdirectories. That's why you say dot, because you are at the root level of your robot controller folder, and you're adding everything under that, which is both files and folders under that current directory. Okay?
Okay, let's go ahead and do our commit. Everyone's caught up. Yeah. So we can just type in git commit -m, and then in apostrophes, you just do initial commit, or you can name this whatever you want. Initial commit is the standard for what you do your first commit to be. You can name this like starting commit or anything like that if you want. And then you can enter. And you should see all these information. This is basically telling you every file that was changed. We're just gonna wait for a second to let everyone catch up.
No, someone was asking if it was the person, the person that was.
Oh, it's required
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, before you start.
We're gonna hold on just for a second, let everyone catch up.
So again, just a reminder, if you're getting overwhelmed, please that's okay, because like mentioned, not everyone on the coding team is going to have to do all these steps. This is just to show you how it's done. Typically, what's going to happen is one software member on the team, or maybe the coach, will do these steps for you, and then you will simply be cloning the existing repository and then committing to it, pushing to it, pulling from it, which are all much easier because they are done using the graphical user interface in Android Studio. All these command line stuff which you're doing, this is all just for learning. The name part though, the global username and user email, that part you need to do it once. So please make sure you've done that. But everything else where you're creating a new repository, you're initializing it, and then committing it, all this is not something every member on the software team will need to do. Okay.
Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and continue. So now we're gonna do the final command, and this is where some people have different methods. So we're gonna go ahead and type in git push -u origin main. And when you do this, you're gonna get one of two methods where it'll ask you to log in. So go ahead.
I got.
So we're gonna wait. Okay. So this is the easier method. You'll see something that pops up that says GitHub and sign in. And you can just do sign in with your browser, and it'll just work really easily after that.
Yeah, if you
Yes.
are already logged in your browser, it automatically sent the token which shows that, yes, this is a valid set of credentials, and it
Yeah.
logs you in.
Some people might say something that says username. If you do, just let us know, because there's some different steps you need to follow to do that. I'm on Mac and it doesn't. Could you explain what you mean by doesn't provide the token to your terminal? Do you see something that says username or? Yeah, okay, we'll walk you through those steps. That's like a separate set of practices. Yeah, sure. We'll demo that too.
So yeah, everyone who's on Zoom, if you see Rishan's question, a lot of you who are on the Mac are going to be facing that same situation probably, and we are going to demo how you log in that situation. But while you guys are working on that, just want to go ahead and touch on what commit and push are. So what are the things we did here? Like we said in the beginning, or in one of the earliest steps, you created a new repository. So at this point, I actually want everyone's attention, even in person. So when you create a repository, what you need to understand is when you've installed Git and you've created your repository for the first time, it is still local. It's on your laptop or on your computer. it is nowhere on the cloud yet. And the way Git works is you're going to have a local repository, and then there's going to be a copy of that in the cloud, which is what GitHub is providing you. And a sync up happens between the two. So every person who has cloned a repository, they literally have a clone of what is in GitHub. So you will have a local version of the repository, which means frequently you need to make sure that your local version on your computer and the one in GitHub are syncing up. Because only when you push what you have to GitHub will somebody else have access to it, right? If you commit it to your local repository, it simply means you have saved it so that you don't lose that code, or if you make some changes, you'll still be able to track it. But it still is locally available only on your computer. So the first step we did, we created the repository, and then we added the current directory. That was the add and space period. At which point it added all those files to your local repository. And then the next step that you did was commit. So please understand the difference between add and commit. When you have a new file or a new folder, that's when you add it. It's a one-time action. Once you've added it, if you make changes to the file, then you have to commit it. So each time you commit a file that has been modified, you are creating a snapshot of that file, of all the contents of that file. So when you have two different commits, you can compare them. You can revert what you have in a later commit back to an older commit. So a commit is the act of taking a snapshot of your contents per file. Okay, so that is add and commit. Now, when you added all those folders and files to your local repository. And then when you typed in commit and had a commit message, one more really important thing, please make sure you're using meaningful commit messages. And it's better you actually use sentences. Do not have something like my next commit. Oh, I had to put this code in here, or hope this works. These are useless commit messages. Your commit message should be able to tell you or someone else who reads that commit message exactly what was done in that commit, what changed between the previous commit and this one, or what feature was committed in that commit. So please make them meaningful commits, because many times you yourself will go back after a week or two and then wonder, what was this? Why did I even put this in? Right? So it should be meaningful. It should help you and others. So every commit has a commit message associated with it. And when you typed in that message or command and completed the commit, you created a snapshot of all that code in your local repository. Till this point, GitHub has no idea that you have a new repository, right? GitHub does not even know that your new repository exists. When you type in that push, and then you're giving it a branch, either main or master. Now that's whether it is main or whether it's master will depend on how you set up your initial Git configuration. So I suspect we're going to find some of you have main, some of you have master, and we're going to work through that with all of you. So please be prepared for that. But understand that the act of pushing, that is when your whole repository now makes it to the cloud, to GitHub, to your account on GitHub. So that's when the repository got pushed there. And after it got pushed there, it is creating a branch called main or master, and that's your literally the main branch. Because as you work, you'll see this as we go through at least some of it, but we don't want to confuse you too much by creating too many branches or anything like that. But please understand that you have a main or master, which is like your main river of information or your code. And then you can create branches from that. There's various reasons you could be creating branches. Maybe someone wants to try out something. So you just got a hold of a pinpoint. You want to try code with pinpoint, but you don't want to check it in and break everyone else who might be working on the main branch. So you create a separate branch called Limelight POC or Pinpoint POC. POC is proof of concept. Or you can just give it whatever meaningful name. And that is where you keep checking in code without affecting others who do not really care about that Pinpoint or Limelight code, till you have it completely figured out and working properly. Then you will push it back from your branch into the main or master branch, because now it's ready for everyone to get it. Okay, so that was a quick example of when you might use branching, but let's go back to what you're going to be doing here in the next step. So when you push, because that's the first time it's accessing your GitHub account and pushing to the cloud, that's why it's asking you for your login credentials. So we hope that this explanation kind of makes it clear what step you are in right now. Okay, right.
You had a question? Yeah, sure. Here or? Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll go ahead and show the steps for the people who had like the username pop up. So you should he's running the same command. So you should see something that says username for github.com. Usually Mac and Linux computers have this the most. So in username, you would just type your GitHub username, not your real name, but your username that you set for GitHub. This is like what you use to log in. And then when it asks for your password, you actually don't enter your password. It's sort of a weird process. You have to go to github.com, the website. And once you're logged in, you go to your profile, scroll down and find settings. On the left bar, you have to scroll down until you find developer settings. And you should see a thing called personal access token, and you can click tokens classic. So we're gonna go here and click generate new token. You probably won't see any tokens here, but since we've been using GitHub for a while, we have a few. So you can generate new token classic. And you can call this whatever you want, but it's best practice to name this like the name of your computer or something like that. And we can go to expiration and click no expiration. Yeah. And now you'll have to go through and check all the boxes. It'll take like a minute and it's kind of annoying, but
It's just easier
yeah.
to check all the boxes rather than figuring out which one specifically are the minimal.
Yeah. Has anyone got any questions about this point, or is everyone here? Anyone using a Mac in person that has like questions? It's like this process. Okay. The question was, how do I get here from git bash? This is on github.com. So you have to go to your profile and then settings. Was that your question, or is it something else? Okay. Let me just pull it up real quick.
You went to GitHub settings, right, to get the tokens?
Yes, I'll just pull it up again and show you.
Yeah, just
So we'll go ahead, github.com. And you can go to your profile. Scroll down and you should see settings. Setting. And in settings, you just scroll down and find developer settings on the bottom left. Once you're in developer settings, on the left, you'll see personal access tokens. So you'll open that. Tokens classic. And then click generate new token. From there, you would select all the boxes and then name it and give it no expiration. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
That's fine.
Was the login when you pushed? Or when you
pushed.
When you pushed.
Yeah. I think everyone is here. If there's any questions. We're gonna wait for a minute and let everyone catch up.
Yes.
Who's there? Oh my god.
How to put that password?
Oh, why didn't you like text me? That
How
you were
to
like
copy?
coming or something.
So we copy the
This is the
token.
crap out
Now
of
we
me.
have
I'm like in the middle of my robotics thing. And like I just obviously.
So we got the token. So, but we are not able to paste on a terminal.
Okay. We're at the step of you got your token and now we need to put it into our terminal.
So we haven't yet done it yet.
Yes, we're getting to that now. So you see a token here. We're gonna leave this token after, but it's best practice not to share your token with anyone because that's like the password for your account.
Okay.
So we'll do it.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so now you can go ahead and open up your terminal. And the important thing here is you want to just click backspace a few times, like a lot, just to make sure that anything you have is cleared. The important thing is you won't see anything you type here. This is a security feature. It's like when you type your password, you only see the dots. On the terminal, you just won't see anything, so you won't know what you typed. So
And now I have my token in the.
yeah, you should have a copy. You can test
Yeah.
this by opening up your notepad or something and seeing if it's copied.
Yeah, and now I'm just gonna paste it.
Yeah.
You won't see anything.
You won't see anything. So we actually pasted it. So in this
So-
case, we did a right click, which is usually what works the most for Windows and other things like that. On a Mac, you should be able to hit Command V and that'll work.
And now we're just gonna hit enter. And
Yeah.
well, I've already pushed, so it just says everything
Okay.
up to date.
Yeah.
But it should push by now. And
Yeah.
now I'm gonna go delete my token.
I think the question was how to open the terminal. You should already be in Git Bash. And then you should be able to type from there. So by now, everyone should have been able to push the repository. And you can verify this by going to the repository link that you created and refreshing that page on GitHub. So we can just show it here. And your robot controller should pop up here. Also, just to clarify, I think there was some confusion on this. If you had that pop-up where it asks you to sign in with your browser for GitHub, you don't need to follow these steps of getting a token. Only if it asks for your username and password in the terminal itself, then you need to do the steps we showed.
I think on Macs it tends to,
Yeah, and mostly on Macs and Linux computers, it tends to do that.
where you do need to generate the token.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
paste it. Whereas on Windows laptops, it should have you complete using the browser login.
Mhm. So everyone should be able to go to their GitHub page and verify this. Can we have people who've done this raise their hand and show that they've gotten it?
So all the in-person attendees, if you've completed the step of pushing the repository, and if you've been able to go to your browser and look at the repository you created in GitHub, having all the source that you just pushed, please raise your hand if you have done that.
Cool. Okay.
So if if you're able to see the source that you just pushed in the browser in your GitHub account repository, please raise your hand.
If you have any questions, just put them in the chat or on mute. Kevin, we're gonna have you go in a breakout room with our members and they can help catch you up. Yeah. Just give us a minute or two.
Working.
Sorry for the delay. We're just helping everyone catch up in person. If anyone has any questions, they can just put it in the chat and someone will be able to answer.
There's one more person.
Just one more reminder. I know this might be feeling really hard, but again, a reminder, not everyone on the team is going to have to do this. And forking a repository is actually much easier. But in the interest of teaching you how to do this, you may be coming up with your own little project or something like that. In the interest of learning things right, we are covering these steps. But as a person who's going to be working along with others in the coding team, cloning an existing repository and working with it is really easy. So please don't let this overwhelm you. Try and get through the steps and get this working. Okay.
Yeah, we'll send the slides and the recording of this to everyone who registered.
So our intention was to send the slides tomorrow after the second day is done. But if you guys feel like you can use these slides today, then yes, definitely we can send the slides out today itself. But we request that please do not go and start steps from tomorrow, or maybe we'll send half the presentation pertaining to the steps for today. So yes, we can do that.
It's gonna kick him out.
So everyone who's on Zoom, I know it's 1 o'clock. If you absolutely need to leave, that's fine. We will probably spend the next few minutes just trying to help anyone who needs to catch up, catch up. By few minutes, I do mean maybe up to 10 minutes. We can't go beyond that because we have to give up our location here. But we are pretty close to where we wanted to end the day, which is basically completing these steps. So we will pick up where we left off, where we leave today. We'll pick up from there tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific again.